Today I'd like to continue our journey through the book of Deuteronomy in chapter 14. We've been looking at this farewell discourse of Moses, and at this point in the book, he's going to really give us a sense of some of the laws that the people should follow and some of the laws that really guide them closer to God and some of the practices that they should really eliminate. And the idea is that kind of a very simple formula that if you follow the laws that God has given, you will stay closer to God, to others in the community. But if you kind of tend to avoid the laws, forget the laws, just kind of even flout the laws, bad things are going to happen to you and also really to the community. So in chapter 14, he says that really the people should not follow the pagan mourning rites. And part of the pagan mourning rites were kind of gashing yourself, the idea of doing harm to your body, and shaving the hair above your foreheads. These practices were done by the Canaanites, and so they were to be resisted. However, what's very interesting about these practices is that we get down in time to the book of the prophet Jeremiah, at the time of the Babylonian exile in the 5th and 6th centuries before Christ. These become accepted really as normal practices. So it shows what we call the idea of enculturation, how when a people like the Israelites are involved with the Canaanite culture, a lot of those practices which they initially resisted have kind of become absorbed into their religious ideas and religious followings and the religious precepts that they are going to embrace. And they become kind of normal. And so over time, we see this really happening to the Jewish people. God told the people which animals were clean: the ox, the sheep, the goat, the red deer, the gazelle, the roe deer, the ibex, the addax, the oryx, and the mountain sheep. These are labeled as the clean animals. And so those animals are going to have really a special place with the Jewish people in terms of their keeping, preserving them, keeping them sacred, keeping them special, and also offering them in terms of sacrifice. Now, there are other animals, though, that were unclean, and they're listed: the camel, the hare, the rock badger, the pig. These animals really are to be avoided in terms of sacrifice. And because they are unclean, they can really have a negative effect on the people. A lot of people who kind of analyze this say, well, maybe there were certain diseases that were associated with these animals, and they notice a kind of a cause and effect relationship. So if you were to eat part of the pig, and of course certain diseases may be associated with that, they would say, hey, wait a minute, this is good. This animal is definitely unclean. Let's avoid this animal because of the consequences. What's going to happen to the people when they eat the animal? They also said that you should not touch the dead bodies of the unclean animals. So when the unclean animal died, don't touch the body, just kind of leave it there to decompose. Uh, these laws show that the Israelites were a people that were set apart to be holy. So other people might view these animals as okay and we can eat them and everything, but the Israelites were set apart. They had a special relationship with God, and because of this special relationship with God, certain laws and practices that they were going to follow, other people obviously were not going to follow. But the idea was, let's put God first. And this is what God wants, and so we're going to follow what God wants. Many times, the laws, though, are kind of in sync with different medical practices and cultural practices that were appropriate for the people. You don't want to be involved with animals where sickness is going to be visited upon the people, and so you got to resist that. You can eat clean fish and clean birds and clean insects as well. So if it was clean, edible, no problem. Unclean, avoid, stay away from. They also felt that they should offer a tithe to the Lord. And a tithe, very important practice that was developed by the Israelites, the idea of 10% to God. And what is the concept behind that? The concept really is that God has given us everything. All that we have ultimately comes from the Creator, who has given us the gift of creation, has given us the birds, the animals, all of the beauties of creation. They are a gift to us, and we should be good stewards of them. And to show that we reverence that and that we respect God and God's role, we're going to donate 10% of everything that we have to God. And what is that saying? I'm putting God first. God is more important in my life. So that 10% goes to God. And the 10% can either be in animals, can be in grain, can be in oil, or it can be money. If the journey is too far from where you live to go to the place that God will designate as a special place to offer your sacrifice, then the money can be used to really buy your offering. So the money became important because it was difficult for many people to travel that long distance to the sanctuaries. It was hard for them, hard in terms of maybe a family obligation, hard in terms of their occupation, in terms of agriculture, fishing, hunting, all of that. It would be taking care of the flocks. It might be difficult to make that journey, so instead they would send the money offering, and the money offering would be a sign that, yes, I'm giving this 10% to God, not in terms of animals, but in terms of my wealth. And this concept of tithing has stayed with us. It's a very important concept that we embrace in many religious traditions even today. The idea of putting God first in our life, not thinking so much about, what we can have and our resources, but saying, God is first. God is my priority. So I'm going to give God that 10%. That is what I owe to God. And so that's going to come first. And the rest, I know God will provide, God will take care. So giving that 10% is a sign that I love God. My relationship with God is important. And I want to say to God, God, thank you. Thank you for the blessings that I have been given. And my tithing is a way of me personally saying that thank you. Now, when you're giving your offering to God, the place God chooses, and it's interesting how it is phrased in Deuteronomy, God is going to direct us to that place of offering. It's not us as human beings that are going to choose that place. It is God who is going to direct us and say, this is the place where the offering will take place. And so ultimately we know is developed in Israelite tradition into the idea of the temple and the temple sacrifice. But the idea was that God is going to direct this process. It's not a human being process. It is a God-directed and God-led process. You must not neglect when you are giving your offering, giving an offering to the Levites. Very important. The Levites were the priestly tribe. Because the Levites were given no share in the land, in the distribution of the land. They weren't given a particular territory that would be theirs. So it would be difficult for them to survive unless offerings were given to them. So that concept was laid out that part of your offering now is going to go to those who are in this tribe because this is how they are going to survive. The other tribes, not a problem. They had their share of the land. The Levites did not. But now, every third year, the people should bring out their share, and they should store it in community stores. So every third year, it would be the idea of storing everything in the community. This way, you can take care of the needs of the orphan, the widow, and the alien. Very important concept. Very a significant consideration that the needs of the poor are important, and we're going to do everything we can to take care of the poor. So this community store would be for all. All those who are in need could come and take from it. And the emphasis on all of the celebrations that the Jewish people would celebrate, all the liturgical rites, was very much on joy. And next time we will continue our journey into chapter 15, and we'll do it in that joyful spirit that the Israelites modeled.